Good evening, welcome everyone, and welcome to New Smyrna Speedway, where once again we are live for round number 2 of the FTF Grand National Series presented by Bar Visuals. It was a couple weeks ago. We got things kicked off at a track that is just down the road from here at the World Center of Racing. Jake Poulin takes down the victory, and we are set to go for race number 2 of what is a highly competitive field. Good evening, everybody. My name is Blake McCandless alongside Justin Prince, but we'll exchange the pleasantries a little bit later. We already have to get started on our starting grid for tonight as they are quickly ready to go here down on pit road. So Braden Buyos will start on the front row with Dylan Smith to his outside, Abigail Winters, Ryan Doucette in row number 2, Adam Sweet, Nathan Ravito, Timmy Pacioli will start 7th. 8th will go to Jonathan Oates. 9th, Michael Frisch, and Cosmin Yanishu will round out the top 10.
In 11th spot tonight, it's Rich Jamison with Tyra Williams starting in the 12th spot. Lucas Plosno will start inside 13th spot. Arnold Columbia in 14th. Edwin Mendez starts in 15th. Matt Spalding in 16th spot. Jeffrey Stanton in 17th. Hagenstein in 18th. Brandon Hawken, who had a strong run at 19th. Sean Butler, the driver who tried as hard as he could to try and find his way to victory lane, will start in 20th.
And Butler will round out the top 20. We'll let the rest of the grid scroll across on your screen as we are already set and ready to go at this racetrack. 0.48 miles, so just under half a mile here, 4 turns, banked to allow these drivers to carry some super speed around this half-mile speedway. Braden Bouillot is going to have control of the field in his Horizon Racing Chevrolet and get us going for 150 laps. Glad you could join us tonight here on STN as we are set and underway here at New Smyrna.
And already several drivers in the middle of the pack went 3 wide trying to sort themselves out. A bit of contact. Clean for the most part, though. It's going to be tight confound racing here. It's not an easy track to wheel your cars around, especially with these speeds, and to try and slow down. Several are struggling under brakes early.
They certainly are. I'm looking around here just behind Sean Butler. They're 3 wide, and somebody's going to get turned. It's the 005. Jacob Fisher is involved here in turn number 3. The 27 piles in, and a big accident here on lap number 2 as we were just getting up to full song comes out. And Justin, we were talking about how crazy it was there in the back of the pack, and no better example of that as we look at our Bar Visuals replay. It was Will Rogers, that 005 machine, splitting the gap 3 wide as they exited off at turn 2 in a battle that was for the 21st position. And 3 wide here at this racetrack, awfully aggressive on lap 2, and it certainly didn't work out for these guys.
No, it didn't, and you'll see it right here where it's so easy with how tight the back straightaway is for drivers to just converge to one another, and that's exactly what happened with the 005, trying to come up with space when there wasn't any there, and just a massive, massive pileup. This was a struggle in practice earlier on tonight, too, where several drivers, keep in mind this was when it was later on in the afternoon, were struggling on corner exit in general, whether pushing up into the wall or spinning it down the racetrack. And in this case, a massive pileup to start things off early in this race.
It is. You could see several drivers piling into that one long after it had initially started. I believe the 42 of Tyler Duggan, he gets a little bit of damage in his Volunteers Chevrolet. Jacob Fisher hit the outside wall. Clint Roberts was involved. Kyle Lawrence Short gets a piece of it as well. Matt Horton piles in. Again, a lot of it was just the aftermath. Ooh, a big shot. It was Victor Valley who got a nice shot from behind as they were entering this corner. Nate Stewart got turned around, so already a large pile up here, and I don't think we expected, or I think it was easy to expect that this is going to be a very difficult racetrack for these drivers to navigate all night long. Half a mile, not a lot of room. It's going to be a lot of battling to get to the bottom of the racetrack, at least what we've seen early on. And I think we've seen this in the FTF Grand National Series presented by Bar Visuals last season. When you come to these short tracks, it's going to be a race of attrition for the most part, Justin.
Yeah, and you hit it right on the head. This is a bottom-dominant track especially, so I wouldn't be surprised to see drivers take risks to find a hole to get to the bottom, as well as to try and dive their way underneath someone. But we're backing away.
Back under the green flag is another great restart here from Braden Buyos as he gets advantage of that jump that the leader gets. He's ahead of about a car length, maybe two, over Dylan Smith in second. Ryan Doucette settles in third. But again, it is the battle behind them. One car into the outside wall in 3 and 4. That's Jonathan Oates. They're once again going to work 3 wide off the corner as it looks like Oates is going to be able to settle back in, but already 2 wide. Rich Jameson side by side with the 45 of Lucas Plosel, who about, again, just got into the wall as they were nearly looking 3 wide off the corner.
It's a little bit nerve-wracking to say the very least when you're in packs such as this, and keep in mind, this can burn the tires. More drivers in trouble down the front stretch. They're wrecking again.
Another huge pileup here on the front straightaway. One car is spun around. I saw Matt Spalding was the first machine that caught my eye, and once again, 3 wide off the corner, not working out here. And a couple of drivers that were involved in that first accident getting collected in this one as well. You see, once again, we'll take a look at the replay, and there's just not a whole lot of room to go out here at New Smyrna. Not only for 3 wide, but once cars get turned around, there's very narrow picking of a lane to try to go through. You see door to door beating each other off of the corner, and you see the 88 sprung out in the middle of the track. 49 comes and tags him along. That's Noah Carmichael that comes across and gets some damage right there, but just nowhere to go for many of these drivers back in the pack. Golly, look at the tight confines here.
I don't think he realized they were going to go 3 wide. I think maybe there was the expectation from the 52 at least that someone was going to back off, but that's the trouble spot. 3 wide is a dangerous thing to do here at this racetrack. And if you don't execute it well, you likely end up seeing big collisions like we've seen. As we see for some others, just nowhere to go for drivers like Justin Malone, who have to basically slam on the brakes to avoid getting slammed to the wall.
He certainly did, and you see he comes to a stop right in front of the start-finish line here as everybody just tries to get sorted out. You can see the Hellman's machine. That's Jake Poulin, who was our winner from last week at Daytona. He's also competing for FTF Grand National Series points this season, so he currently holds the control of the championship and obviously locked into the playoffs by virtue of that win. But with the new happenings with the split in series this year, at FTF, of course, you have a couple of drivers out here who will be competing that will not be collecting points in this series for the most part. They'll be splitting time. They have about 16 races or so that they can run part-time in this series. A couple of those names are out here on this racetrack tonight. I know Michael Cozy Jr., he's one of those drivers who will not be competing for points this season. A couple other drivers that made their start last week at Daytona, but they're not out here this week. Guys like Derek Justice, Connor Horn, Brian Mercurio, just to name a few, that will have to pick and choose the races that they compete in this season. I believe Ryan Doucette may be a part of that conversation as well. So working under the second caution flag already this evening, lap number 13 already on the board. And you know, Justin, I think this is one of those races where you're going to see a lot of drivers with these, perhaps the quick runs that we'll see all night long. You think about pit strategy here. It's going to be a big decision for any of these drivers if they get a run long enough to give up the track position and get back there in the pack where we've already seen 2 wrecks here early on.
And keep in mind as well, there's only 2 tire sets in the pit, so you have to be able to choose when you come in very wisely, because say you come in a little bit early and you end up going on a long run. Guess what? You're likely going to have to stay out the next run. There's so many different situations as we're underway again.
Back under the green flag here, and again, another great launch for Braden Buyos, who's going to be really tough to beat with the great jump and the great qualifying time that he set right here. Side-by-side battle for second, though. Give it to the Zoo Pals machine of Ryan Doucette. And before we can talk about that, it looks like he had the nose of his Mustang in front. Another driver gets turned in the back of the field and brings out already our 3rd caution flag in 15 laps, and it looked like Arnold Columbia got the worst end of it as he was turned around in 3 and 4. And it looks like Noah Carmichael in this one again as well, Justin.
Yeah, Columbia got hit from the back end, it looks like, and a bit of a stack effect with Brandon Hawkins, Sean Butler, and several others ping-ponged off. We'll see with the bar visuals replay that. It was right on the entry to turn 3 in the braking zone. And for some, it can cause a stack of effect. You see exactly that. Hard contact, though. No safer barriers here at this racetrack. That's going to have some significant damage. And the caution overall is drawn by Carmichael, who spins around trying to avoid all the rest of the carnage.
It was. You see the 39 and really just a two-car pile up here. You see Columbia gets a nice shot. He got a little bit of help right there from Brandon Hawken, who gave him a little swipe from behind to spin him around. And then, of course, Noah Carmichael, pretty harmless spin right there as he tried to work on through it. But while we're working under the third caution flag already of this evening, we'd like to remind you of our sponsor for tonight, Kicking the Tires. It is a multi-platform motorsports media outlet primarily focused on NASCAR, but also covering AMA Supercross, the IMSA Sports Cars, the NTT IndyCar Series, local short track events, and major one-off racing events for other genres as well. Stay informed and up to date on what happens in and around the garage by visiting kickingthetires.net. Of course, we appreciate their support of the FTF Grand National Series presented by Bar Visuals tonight and the running of the kickingthetires.net 150 here at New Smyrna. So working under caution flag number 3 already, and so far out front, it's been Braden Buyos. We saw Ryan Doucette. He was able to make that pass for the second position before the caution came out. He started in 4th. New addition to the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series this season, and he should definitely be one that we'll have to watch tonight, Justin.
Yeah, it's going to be intriguing how the rest of this all plays out, but it's one of those types of races where it's short track racing, where anything can happen and anyone can come away with a victory if they play their cards right. And so far, the drivers who qualified at the front, they're looking like they're going to likely stay up at the front as long as they don't make any major mistakes. It's going to be interesting, though, I think, with Ryan Doucette now on the outside of the front row here for this restart, how hard he tries to track Braden Buyos, or attack, rather, Braden Buyos to try and take this lead away.
We'll see if he can do it off this restart. Again, that launch that you can get as the leader here, very important. I think Buyos is going to be very tough to contend with here on these starts. And you see again right there, able to get clear easily of Ryan Doucette as they work into the corner. Green flag back out here at New Smyrna. Side-by-side battle for now the 4th position. Abigail Winters started on that outside, and I think we're going to see this quite often here. You start on the outside. It's how quick you can get back down to the bottom. Is he going to be able to clear? He gets into the wall, and look at that. Michael Frisch, he's able to go on by.
Opens up the door easily indeed, but another caution flag, and this is again around the 20s. Michael Cozy Jr. is involved in several other contenders. Harry Tiller down the track and into more cars.
This was an accident once again. It seems like we've said this a couple of times, back in about the 22nd position, and I think as we're going to see on this Bar Visuals replay here in just a moment, just an accordion effect, kind of a domino effect from contact between, I believe it was the 13 of Nate Stewart and Harry Tiller working into the first corner. You see, yep, the 01 gets in, or the 13 gets into the back of the 01. Tiller gets out of shape. That sends him into the back of Cozy. There was really nothing the 01 could do right there. Cozy, again, an innocent victim right there. And once again, this has just been a tough short track for these guys to try and navigate.
Yeah, you see several drivers trying to slam into the brakes. And man, tough break there. I think that was Perpulin, who avoided everything, and all of a sudden, bam, Harry Tiller rolls down the racetrack and adds some right rear quarter panel damage that will impact him just as he thought he was getting clear. Just absolute chain reaction event is right there.
Very tough for anywhere to go. And you see the 00. He's going to go ahead and go back to pit lane and take his tires potentially, or maybe fix some damage.
Yeah, from that right rear, absolutely. And this is going to lose him a lap, because here's the tough part in this pit lane too here, Blake, is how much size how quick the pace laps are here. Only 40 seconds of pace lap. You come into pit, you better hope that you have some track position to be able to properly do service.
You're exactly right, and I think when you say track position, that is the biggest case, because pitting from the lead is, for the most part, I think you're going to be okay. You have enough time to come down pit road and not have to worry about going a lap down, but it's certainly a risk that is going to be a part of what these drivers have to think if you're in about the 20th or 30th position. I mean, look at how these guys are even pacing right now under caution. Pace truck's on the back straightaway, and fifth is just coming out of turn 2. The leader's about in the middle of the backstretch. So the track position game, even under caution, going to be very important, and it's going to make it hard for these guys to fix any of that damage.
Yeah, it's even harder, I think, even than Martinsville, where you have it about 45 seconds for a pace lap. But looks like one driver from the Moonsport camp is going to take the wave around in Tiller. But the Bulos versus Doucette battle, I think it's going to intensify a little bit more if we can get enough green flag laps for them to try and make some moves.
We'll see if they can do that, as we're already, even though we've worked a couple of cautions, column 4 already in the first 27 and what will be 28 laps here in just a moment. It is a race that is going to roll on by here at a half-mile racetrack. We'll see how much green flag racing we can get over the last next little bit here, as Braden Bulos, again, too strong with that advantage on the restart. He gets in about a car length ahead of Ryan Doucette for second, and just like we saw earlier, driver in fourth having a tough time trying to get back down to the bottom. It's Dylan Smith trying to take advantage of that.
Just seems you want to at least start in the third position. Fourth on back, it can cause absolute problems, and this is the case where if you squeeze well enough to force the driver below to lift, you can be able to clear them by. But the battle for the race lead going side by side. Doucette wants the point.
Doucette trying to make it happen, and he was able to get a nose under the 30 machine as they work into 1 and 2. Once again, Doucette slides up the racetrack. A great job here from Braden Bulos to try to take that line away from Ryan Doucette. They still work side by side. Clean battle up front here, but it may be just too much as Doucette, leader at the stripe, off of turn 4.
Doucette, though, still can't get fully clear, and that's the tough part. You can defend for a fair amount of time here at this racetrack with being able to squeeze on the corner exits. It's just a matter of how long those tires will hold out for the 30 for him to squeeze.
And this time at the stripe, it's Braden Bulos who has the race lead. Doucette once again on the charge. It seems like at least through 1 and 2, I'd give the nod to Bulos there on the top side, but Doucette definitely having that advantage through 3 and 4, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Braden Bulos, a great job defending there, is able to keep the race lead, and that brings Timmy Pacioli, who we thought wasn't going to contend there on the high side, back into third. But before he can do that, another crash off of turn 4. Again, another battle back in about 28th or 30th position, and I think the first car we're going to see go around is Matthew Zwack in the NOS Energy Toyota. And again, contact around that 13 machine is where it all started in 3 and 4.
Matt Hornet also involved in that situation where it was towards the back of the field and they were really bumping and banging and dooring one another. Well, Rogers had to dodge it, and then there was a secondary incident. Kyle Riley, you talked about, gets spun around in the middle of the check-up effect. You'll see right there as they go up the racetrack, Riley tries to go down the racetrack right into the 7's front fender. That spins around Riley's car. That triggers the caution flag and stacks everybody up at the bottom of the racetrack.
Yeah, it was a hard lick there for some of those drivers that came in. Obviously, Riley anticipating the caution, or anticipating the spin, rather, from that machine that was on the high side of Matthew's whack. He comes down, and unfortunately, he spins in front of Matt Horton, who had nowhere to go. Isaac Johnson barrels into the 7, so it's likely that that 7 machine of Matt Horton got pretty significant damage out of that. Even still wrecking after that, a couple other cars trying to work their way around. Just not a lot of room here at New Smyrna to try to navigate traffic. But an interesting battle up front we had on that last run. Bulos is able to defend from the second lane. I wasn't expecting that to quite work out for him, Justin.
Wasn't quite sure if it'd work out quite yet either, but I almost feel like it's with the help of some of the rubber buildup and some of the tire wear that the second groove is starting to maybe get itself worked in. Because take, for example, a super late model or one of the Arc Menard series cars. drivers do have the tendency in those cars to try and move up a little bit as the race goes on and you put more and more laps on the tires. So that's a possibility where we're seeing a similar case here with these cars tonight for the Grand National Series, where I think there's the chance they move up at least half a lane as the night goes on. It's just a matter, though, of can Ryan Doucette pick up on that and decide, you know what, I'm going to try and go deeper on the brakes and see if I can get to the outside of the 30 instead of stick to the inside.
That'll be the case, and again, they'll have to keep up with the racetrack throughout this race. Again, this was kind of a sunset race, so to speak. Right now, 6:56. We just reached a local in-sim time, so of course, kind of working through the sunset here. Obviously, February 13th, so kind of working later into the night as we continue to work along. Sun is down, and that is going to play into how this track changes throughout the night right now. 69 degrees outside, ambient temperature, and only 73 right now for the racetrack. That has since cooled down since we got the drop of the green flag, but we'll see it once again. Boulos and Doucette out front. Michael Frisch has worked into the mix. He's your champion of the FTF Cup Series Daytona 500, and he is trying to make his mark here. Again, not competing for points here tonight, but just competing for the victory. Once again, Boulos on the loud pedal. Green flag is out, and here comes Timmy Pacioli up the inside trying to take away second from Ryan Doucette as they crash in the back. They're able to hold it together. No caution flag as of yet. Somehow they're able to hang on to it.
With multiple rows of 3 wide, in fact, as well. And that could have been ugly. Now it's a caution as they start stacking up at a turn 4. Andrew Schwartz and several others mowing the grass.
And that, again, just surprised it took us that long, because it looked like for sure off of turn 2 that we were headed for disaster back in the pack, and eventually it catches up with these drivers off of 3 and 4, who once again battling 3 wide for about the 25th position. We've seen Noah Carmichael in a handful of accidents already tonight, and you can see once again on your screen perhaps something that was enough to trigger the caution, but you can just see a bunch of drivers starting to lose the nose of their race cars. We'll get a look at it right here. You see the 88, the 49 on your screen. They're 3 wide in front of them as well, and some contact there between the 88 and the 49. They get glued together, and that's enough to trigger the yellow.
Yeah, and that's all from those circumstances talked about down the back straightaway, where Sean Butler had to go to the grass. Michael Cozy Jr. made it 4 wide at one point. It was absolute carnage that led up to this. Just take a look at this. This is the run up here towards the back straightaway where things start happening right around here with this car going loose in the middle of the pack. They all have to dodge. Michael Cozy Jr. keeps his foot in, trying to go onto the inside. They could have wrecked several times over in the span of all of this. How they didn't have a caution any sooner is amazing.
They did manage to keep it together for about half a lap longer than I would have assumed as we work once again under the caution. I'm starting to lose count. I think we're at 6 or 7 at this point at lap 43 of 150. So not even at the third way mark of this race. And, you know, I think we anticipated this. I expected that we would see a handful of cautions, but, and actually I'm getting a correction here from our producer. Caution number 6, Zach Johnson doing a good job there, making sure the visuals and everything look good for you here tonight. But again, just working under cautions. I think we expected this at a track where it's so tight, and again, you get stuck back there in the pack. You think you should be further up, and we've seen a lot of aggressive move from really the same drivers that have been involved. It seemed to be on the involved list each time we have one of these cautions.
Absolutely, and keep in mind, there's been minimal green flag laps with the timings of these caution flags too. Up to 7 green flag laps so far, which is not a lot in the span of 44 laps. It's going to be a case where it can be frustrating as a driver, but it's also one where you have to plot out, okay, you never know when the next caution's going to come out. If we're going to get a 20, 30, 40 lap run out of a sudden, you have to be able to plot it out to be able to prepare for any situation as a driver. And I wouldn't be surprised to see some of the aggression pick up, especially around 50 laps to go, knowing you don't know if you're going to have, say, a run for 50 laps or, say, 10 laps of 5.
That is something you have to balance, and I'm sure that is playing into the minds of everyone who's running out front here in terms of the strategy, the limited tire sets they have on pit road. We'll see all that shake out here as, once again, Braden Boulos, as he has all night long up to this point. Once again, going green flag, and they are 3 wide for second behind them as the 86 got a little out of shape. Michael Frisch trying to pounce now for that 3rd spot. He has made his way up from 9th and is slowly creeping into the top 3, and it looks like he's got Timmy clear, and he does. Pacioli back to 4th, moved Michael Frisch up to 3rd.
One car spun around on the front stretch, still staying green. Kyle Riley's popped around. It's getting crazy in the middle of the pack once again, but the front of the field, though, for Michael Frisch, this is a chance for him to show what he can do. He's someone that can get some major clutch victories, especially on the super speedways, and now might be able to do something here with the short track. Remember, he does have a major short track victory in his pocket in the past.
In big trouble here. They are 3 wide. They're 4 wide. Somehow caution not thrown yet as Rich Jameson, the 86 machine, got thrown into the wall. They somehow work it out off the corner. They were 4 wide down the backstretch, but you could see the pile up, and now they're crashing behind them. It looks like Jake Poulin spins to the inside, and the caution flag is out. As Poulin looks like he didn't even have help on that one. He just got a little bit loose off the corner. The Hellman's Chevrolet spins around. He was back in the 38th running position.
Yeah, just looked like snapped around, trying to carry momentum from the middle line. It just got too quickly into the gas, just whooped it around right into Justin Malillo. More contact for several other contenders as a result there. Absolute madness is the best way to describe everything. And they're still going 3 wide, mind you, into these corners, which is causing incidents like this one, where there's an anticipatory send that caused this incident that led to the next corner.
That is the case, and although you can fit 3 wide here, the driver in me says that these guys can't fit 3 lanes. Can everybody just stay in their lane? That has been the question, and unfortunately has been an issue all throughout the night. So as we work under caution flag number 7 here at New Smyrna Speedway, we'll go side by side. You won't miss a minute of it as we continue to bring you live flag-to-flag coverage of the KickinTheTires.net 150.
40 of the best sim racers. $200,000 on the line. Who will rise to the challenge? Interlagos, Barcelona, Imola, Silverstone, Road Atlanta, Montreal, Spa, Nürburgring, Le Mans, Monza. This is racing for immortality. This is esports personified. This is the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup.
And we're back live from New Smyrna Speedway as we continue to bring you coverage of the FTF Grand National Series presented by Bar Visuals. And, you know, one thing, Justin, we didn't see it at Daytona. We haven't seen it yet. Our Splash and Go graphics flip count for the season has not happened yet. You know, I gotta say, I was wondering if we had a greater chance of that potentially occurring tonight than it did last week at Daytona. But so far, we've seen a lot of wrecks, we've seen a lot of carnage, but up to this point, still have not been able to turn the dial on the flip count just yet.
I mean, if somebody goes quick enough into an incident where they don't have the awareness of the incident and don't use any brakes, there is a chance they can get some sort of liftoff. But obviously, you don't want that to happen. These drivers want to lift off onto the gas.
They're certainly lifting off here lifting off the gas rather as they work into 1 and 2. Braden Boulos doesn't off the restart. Doucette able to keep pace with him. They're side by side for third behind them between Michael Frisch and Timmy Pacioli, and it looks like they continue to work that. But again, we keep our eye further back in the pack where we have seen many wrecks blossom, and right now they are still side by side back through the pack about 10 rows deep. They are still 2 by 2 throughout the field.
Yeah, no one can find a hole, it seems. You've got drivers like Henderson, like Walsh, and several others trying to keep it side by side. You have Brandon Hawkins trying to go deeper on the brakes amongst those drivers in the pack. And it all is holding them up more and more time-wise here the more they fight like this, by at least a couple tenths a lap. So they have to be able to find some space and get settled in here.
That's what they're trying to do. Nate Stewart gets in the back of the 73 of Jonathan Oates. The 66 is spun around in front of him. No caution as they continue to work it through, but definitely some short track racing there. And we've seen Nate Stewart at the center of a couple of incidents already so far tonight, and he is on a march to the front, to say the least. He has been making some moves out there, and there's about another caution flag there. Is now Brandon Hawking going to go to the inside of him as he's trying to work his way into the top 10.
Remember, it was Oxford Plains last season where he was very strong at one of the short tracks as well, trying to get to the bottom line of that 89. He's been very aggressive on the bottom, and more cars are getting doored to the wall behind him.
One car to the outside wall is Lucas Plosol, who gets shoved into the outside wall, but again, still keeps it forward, and we still work under green. But in front of them, one car is spun around. It is Sean Butler into the grass, and again, no caution flag, and now it is finally thrown as it looks like the Pennzoil Ford gets turned through the center of the corner. It looked like Casey Nimitz and Sean Butler got together, and he tried to collect that car and just could not do it.
And here's a bit of the frustration, I think, is why Sean Butler may not be happy about this. Is the 52 just came out of the pit lane, Blake, and was trying to ride the bottom and let by the lead lap cars, yes, but he was right on the line where Sean Butler was trying to diamond it off the corner to try and hold on to a position. You'll see right here, it comes out of the pit lane, tries to hug the yellow line. Butler tries to diamond it down, ends up coming into the fender and gets some significant hits to an already significantly damaged race car. You can look at it both directions, but keep in mind, again, when you come out of the pit lane, that can cause some frustration for the lead lap cars who are fighting for position and immediately enter side by side to the corner against a lap down car.
Well, it's tough because we say lap down, but of course with that you get fresh tires, so there's definitely more speed in Casey Nimitz's machine through the corner right there. But obviously the frustration pretty apparent over the radios from Sean Butler, who was pretty upset that a car that had just come out of pit lane was not on the lead lap, and actually Nimitz, he scored 7 laps down, so it was obvious that Butler was expecting a little more courtesy off the corner. You see another wreck here that started after Butler's spin. I think this was actually the caution, was the 86, and once again, Noah Carmichael, he has just not had a good night in that Tampa Bay Buccaneers machine. I guess they used all that up last Sunday, and you see hard into the wall goes the 49 machine, and you see the 86 there. He even kind of gets stuck in the wall there, but he had some pretty significant damage anyway, so the 86 looks like he'll have to take that back to pit lane. That's Rich Jameson, who looks like he'll have to take the tow along with Carmichael.
It looks like Abigail Winters, as a result of that incident, too, going to be out of the race. Nemitz has also parked his machine from that incident we just seen. But you got to love the fireworks when it comes to short track racing, right? And we've seen a light show and a half from this type of a race. We've seen some interesting battles, though, still at the front, though. Brandon Boulos, I don't even know if he needs to take a set of tires at this rate.
You know, I was just thinking the same thing on when, if you're a leader, why in the world would you go back in the pack? I mean, fresh tires are going to mean quite a bit. Despite the fact that we've run about 8 or 9 cautions worth of laps under yellow, you're not getting the same wear as you would if they were run under green. But I just can't justify pitting and going back there, losing all the track position and just falling back through the pack. It's going to be a good question, though, of when somebody who's running in about 10th or 15th has fresh tires, can they work their way to the front of the field? I think that's going to be where we're going to see the best racing, is if these guys stay out front for so long on the old tires. When will new tires eventually catch up with them? We'll see when that's going to happen, as we have still not even reached the halfway mark just yet as we work into 1 and 2. Green flag back out. Lap 67 right now as they go side by side for second. Now Doucette takes control of that, and we'll see how long we can continue to work forward. One car in the apron off of turn 4. That's Nathan Rabideau. Checks up the line a little bit. That stacks him up behind. And one car spun into 1 and 2. That's Brandon Hawken that's around.
Got into the door, and several more crashing on the other end of the racetrack. Down the straightaway, it's a parking lot.
Oh, a huge wreck here off of turn 2, and it looked like it was around Michael Cozy Jr.
Some people actually got stuck, I think, in the track exit. It was that bad. Wow. That's incredible. Yeah.
And we'll take a look at the replay. There was a lot happening there. Brandon Hawken, I think he got tagged by AJ Henderson. He about spun 90 degrees around. No caution was thrown. Then Michael Cozy, Will Rogers, Jacob Fisher, a couple of cars who were trying to miss his spinning machine. They get tangled up off the corner, and I think Matthews whack. You see the 18 here. Yep, 89 goes around. And then you see Michael Cozy just beneath there. Good camera work right there. And then the 18, yeah, he gets hooked in the right rear and just leaves nobody behind him any room to get around.
That's what we have to say is one of the biggest track walkers of the season so far in iRacing, because, wow, Cozy Jr. did, yes, save it here. But after this point, you're just a passenger. You're trying to lock it up and pick a lane. Most drivers are okay. Then you have Jake Poulin just sitting there again for the second time, just getting smacked from behind and spun around. The Double Zero's been a punching bag tonight.
He really has, and that was a great opportunity to increase our flip count, but you see right there just not carrying enough speed to do it. As I think you summed it up perfectly, an absolute parking lot off of the corner. And looking through this field, Justin, there are not many cars that don't have some form of damage on. Obviously, there's the 30 car, but even Matt Horton right now, who runs in second, he's got a little bit of damage. Ryan Doucette, Michael Frisch, Dylan Smith, I think that's about the only 5 or 6. Cosman Ionescu, he's got a little bit of front end damage, but just looking throughout the field, I think that's about it. There's going to be a lot of bent scrap metal. A lot of the body shops are going to be very busy when these guys bring put these cars back on the truck and head home.
Yeah, that's an understatement and a half, and that's what to be expected, though, when it comes to being able to build these cars in real life. In particular, it takes a ton of work to be able to scan, build, and test for various different things in simulators, be able to build the cars for the real-world track. But as we get the one-to-go signal again, at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if we finish with no drivers with clean bumpers at this rate. It's just a matter of when things get intense here as we approach halfway, and Bulos has been in control just about this entire race by being the virtue at the pole sitter.
Well, when does the intensity pick up, and when does attrition finally start to take its toll? We still have 30 cars on the lead lap in this race. We have a handful that are a couple laps down. So for the most part, we're still seeing, I think there's still 39 cars out on track. So when will that damage start to catch up to some of these drivers that are all but running at their wits' end in terms of their car and how much more they can keep up? We'll see. Bulos once again on the loud pedal, green flag in the air. They sort things out for second between Ryan Doucette and Michael Frisch. But again, our eyes turn back further behind them. 5th and 6th, Jeffrey Stanton. He rockets around Cosman Ionescu on the high side.
One of the best passes we've seen up high, and you see that exact moment there. Be able to squish on down and try and force the drivers behind to check up. In turn, Cosman, I think, is also trying to follow that same groove. That groove, though, is not the groove I'm talking about.
Oh, it's not. Nathan Rubito going to get into Jacob Fisher, and they are going to turn around. Somehow Fisher keeps it rolling. They save it. The 93 got way out of shape there through 3 and 4. Kind of ended up causing a stack up through 1 and 2. So Nathan Rubito able to hold on. He saves it. And we continue going on as they're about to wreck off of 3 and 4 behind them. But again, they keep it together.
And that's Kyle Short. I think he got into a couple different drivers, in fact, still. We still stay green as he goes back into his battle for the modifieds. This is right now a third of the racetrack ahead of the top 3. We're all just trying to run single file. This is one of our longest runs of the race so far. There's the jinx. We're under caution.
And there's Arnold Columbia spinning around in the back of the pack. He was in the 27th position, and I think he and Ethan Quarter got together in the middle of 3 and 4. And that is, again, the fact that we have had all the contact, all the drivers hitting the wall that we have. And I know I hate to say that it's been impressive that we haven't had more wrecks, but it really is, because these guys are just beating each other's doors off right here. You see just classic case of giving a guy a bump in the wrong spot. Columbia does the 360, keeps it rolling, but finally the caution flag is triggered.
Yeah, just got into the left rear and just simply spun him around there. You'll see right there, just enough to graze it. If anything, take the air off the very edge of the quarter panel. And a good job to keep it off the wall. A couple drivers do slam the wall trying to dodge him, yes, but overall, Columbia limits potential damage. But as a result of this caution, we've seen some of the leaders elect to take tires now.
That is the case, and I think they're finally realizing it's about the halfway point. Tires do matter, and we'll see Timmy Pacioli. He's been running up front for most of this race. He comes down pit road. Ryan Doucette has also elected to take tires, and I think this is mostly a case, Justin, that we finally started to see a couple of drivers who had taken tires and started to work their way forward through the field. Think about Jeffrey Stanton, who's been quietly making his way forward. Several have started to creep up forward, and I think most of our race leaders were aware of that fact. And now, if you're Braden Boulos, you lose a lot of your competition. You have the track position for now, but you have to make that trip down pit road, you would imagine, at some point. But when are you going to want to take that risk and go back there now that some of your other competition that you were battling in the top 5 with, they just decided to pit?
It honestly all depends in part how many cars behind him elect to pit in the next few cautions or so, and how long the runs are going to be, because say you get a 10-lap run, I think that triggers a lot more than, say, having 2 quickie caution flags in that same period, time span rather. So in other words, for Boulos, he's in a very tough spot, because if he pits, he likely might not be able to pass by Doucette with the way this race has been trending unless he makes an aggressive move. If he doesn't pit, he has to try and play defense and hope that he has enough cars behind him on older tires to impede the progress of the drivers on the fresher tires, or attrition ends up affecting those competitors. They're back in 24th, mind you. So this is to where it's almost a lose-lose type of situation if you play this wrong.
You're exactly right, Justin. And speaking of, you said they mentioned they were back in 24th. Arnold Columbia, he was the cause of that last caution. He did a full 360. He lit up his tires. He's restarting directly in front of Ryan Doucette. So that's the risk you take. We'll see if it works out for some of our competitors like Ryan Doucette, who'd elected to go down pit road and get those fresh tires this time. Braden Boulos, once again, on the loud pedal. Green flag back out here at New Smyrna Speedway. Frisch down to the bottom. He has second. Dylan Smith and Jeffrey Stanton duking it out for third as they're 2 wide behind them.
Keep an eye on Doucette as he's going to have to be very careful here. It's been very hectic here. Couple more drivers making contact in front of them as well. We stay green for now, and that could impede the progress of Doucette here. He needs this bottom to keep rolling.
He certainly does. Doucette trying to make his way forward. Dylan Smith got hit up front. That caused Jeffrey Stanton to fall back in the pack as he allowed Dylan Smith to collect that race car back up. And right behind Doucette, a big wreck.
Right beside Doucette. Just about collected Doucette, in fact. And another parking lot.
And that was the 45. Once again, Lucas Plosel has had a very long race, and it is going to get seemingly longer after this latest caution. Tristan Hagenstein, looks like that was kind of where that all started. Off the corner, Jacob Fisher gets tagged. Driver that we were just talking about who just got involved in that last wreck. He's in it, swept up in it as well. Arnold Columbia gets involved. Andy Margot spun to the inside. Clint Roberts, Tyler Duggan. Pretty much anybody who had a front clip on still planted on their race car in the back of the pack. They're really trying to do away with most of them.
Yeah, you can see some of those clips is going to potentially cause massive issues on the radiator from this point on for some of these drivers. You can get away with it in some cases, but in others, not so much. And obviously, at this type of a track, as we've seen, it's actually been holding many drivers up in straight line speed to be able to actually make some of the passes. And this, I think, forced a lot of the side-by-side. That's why Doucette was, as you can see here, just boxed in.
He's boxed in, and it's tough because with those fresh tires, you'd imagine that you have a pretty good chance to go by on the high side of the racetrack and try to make up those spots. But like you said, just boxed in behind slower traffic, it's hard to move up. Now, granted, Doucette went from about 24th on that restart to now he's being scored in the 14th position as timing and scoring refreshes under caution. So he made up a lot of ground, and that's exactly what you need. You need to get these restarts, make up your track position when you can. You see another handful of cars that'll make their way onto pit road, still leaving a lot of drivers out on the racetrack. Braden Bulow still has control of the race lead, but plenty of our race leaders, AJ Henderson, he's one of them. Several cars decided to come down pit road that were up here in the top 5, and that's going to leave Braden Bulos and Cosman Ionescu, one of the few drivers up here that have not elected to come down pit road.
And here's something that's gone under the radar with the damage to Michael Cozy Jr. He's technically your first driver who has come into pit in this race so far. He did take tires. He's in 4th position. So this is going to be interesting what speed's left in the Indy Racing Images machine with how much beating and baning that car has, and the fact it has no deck lid or spoiler on that car. Started 39th.
Started 39th, and after being in that wreck has had to quietly and slowly work his way through this field. We'll see if that Chevrolet can hold up. We also see Nate Stewart. He's now knocking on the door. He's cracked the top 5 as we get the 1-to-go signal here from iRacing.com pace truck on the back straightaway here. We'll see if Nate Stewart, who's been involved in a lot tonight, to say the least, he's making his way forward. Will Rogers from Space Station Gaming, he's also worked his way up here into the top 6, so we'll see how it works for them. Lights are back on the pace car, back off as they dip off, and Braden Bulow is going to get us started here once again. He gets out by about a car length, and then how about Edwin Mendez? Haven't talked about him all night. He nearly squeezes Ionescu up into the wall.
I think he thought he was clear, not close enough to be able to clear on by, but the 77's definitely got some speed. So does Cozy Jr. a little bit in the corners in particular with that fresher grip. Also keep in mind that Doucette is already up to 11th spot after pitting just a few laps ago.
Definitely showing the tires matters. Ionescu gets a shot from Nate Stewart. He tried to get back down. He's able to save it, and they are wrecking behind them. The 88 once again spun in front of the field, and it looks like he may have had some help from a driver who moves up off the bottom, Matt Spalding.
And it's Doucette.
Yeah, Doucette is into the pit road wall trying to miss all of that.
And that is going to be huge for the complexion of this race. I think he got affected by the massive, massive stack-up effect that was caused in all of this that sent him there. And then a secondary shot that sent him basically into an awkward position. Absolute pandemonium again on the checkup effect where drivers are trying to really back it down. You see one driver's actually trying to leave space for others. One gets hit right there. Doucette gets hit from behind from Fisher. And they all just stack up like Legos as they all spin around and nearly hit some air.
And that's exactly right. The 818 obviously stacks up from the contact. Doucette is into the back of him. Jacob Fisher, who was rolling pretty well through the center of the corner, almost can't even react. He gets tagged, and the 37 hits him. There's just nowhere to go, and it looks like, I mean, Doucette may be okay here. That damage is not going to – it looks like he didn't get any nose damage, and, again, that's the first damage he'll collect in this race. But – it's definitely not going to help losing all that track position, having to come back down pit road. Maybe you consider using another set of tires again. So we'll have to see exactly what happens here. But that's the risk you take. You take the tires, and you risk being caught up in all the chaos that we've seen throughout this race. And unfortunately, it sweeps up one of our top contenders here tonight.
Looks like he actually did use a set of tires there, I think on the right side possibly, after that slide. Because here's the thing, you slide the tires, it ends up costing you a ton of grip because you overheat the tires and it takes a long while for them to cool back down. You feel the effects after 20 laps, and I'm thinking he just took those to try and balance that tire wear out, as well as be able to at least get a couple seconds fixed while staying on the lead lap here.
So working caution number, again, I don't know. I've lost count at this point. It's at least over 10. I know that for a fact. Is we're approaching about lap 100, and there we go. Producer puts it for me right in the broadcast chat. Caution number 12 as we now work lap nearly number 100. We'll get the green on lap 99. So just a hair over 50 laps to go in this race. Braden Bulos stayed out yet again, but he's got some fresh tires and some hungry drivers who have worked their way forward behind him. Can he hold the race lead? We'll see if he's able to do so, as he has all night. Great restart for the driver, the 30, Edwin Mendez, who has now worked his way up into the second position, able to get down in front of Michael Cozy Jr. And Cozy trying to work off the corner. He's going to get clear of Leon Eschew as they work into 3 and 4. Cozy trying to do some work on the 77 car, but that 77's got some great turn in it.
I think Sean Butler's gone around once again. He's now against one of the walls at the moment. No caution flag, though. And this is going to get a little bit sketchy for the leaders as they're coming right at full speed towards them.
He is. He's working his way off the banking. Yet again, another spin. No caution for that incident as of yet. But behind the race leaders, they've sorted it out for the first 4 positions. Here comes Nate Stewart behind him. He's got a 2-wide battle commencing directly in his rearview mirror. Will Rogers trying to work by Ryan Naraki. He's able to do so. Now Naraki and Sweet make contact, sweep up the racetrack as Adam Sweet gets swept up in that one. And now Sweet into the back of Naraki as they enter 1 and 2.
More 3 wide and more scary moments for Michael Frisch. He nearly got squeezed by 2 different cars on both the inside and the outside there. Frisch not taking any prisoners, trying to find some moves to get himself back to the front. Remember, he's taking his tires, going 3 wide again.
Will Rogers shot into the wall. That checks them up to 55. Trying to collect it up as Frisch was in the middle 3 wide. Now he's on the bottom with Jacob Fisher, his space station gaming machine, trying to hang on the best he can as Frisch on those fresh tires, trying to work his way back up and forward in front of this field. But talking about the fresh tires, Justin, doesn't seem to have affected Braden Bulos all that much, as he is still expanding his lead right now over Edwin Mendez and company.
Only about a 1 to 2/10 of a second fall off difference, and I think that's partly because of the green flag. Laps total we've turned so far, not too many, but also just the nature of the tire model, where on the short tracks, it can be where you can get those various heat cycles balanced out. Bit of contact, though, up the road, though, for the battle for second, and near contact up the road for Michael Frisch here.
And contact indeed as Michael Cozy moves his way by Edwin Mendez, takes over the second position as he did a good old short track move right there. He and Mendez hit off the corner, a spinner in the back. That's Noah Carmichael that they worked their way by, I believe. Actually, no, that is
Williams.
Yeah, so Williams, as he's able to collect it up, he merges right back into traffic right in front of Andrew Schwartz, who goes to the bottom to try to avoid him. So a lot going on all over this racetrack.
So Michael Frisch has been able to get inside of some of the drivers he was fighting with, trying to find his way at the moment around Ryan Naraki's car completely. Meanwhile, Williams is struggling to just hold it against the outside wall at this point. That car's significant damage. I don't think he can actually steer it at this point. That's how much suspension damage that car might have.
He is definitely struggling to keep it together as they go side by side in front of him. The 7 and the 1 of Dylan Smith, who was running up in about the top 5 for the most of this race. He unfortunately had some bad luck befall him. He's got a clean looking race car, but he's got a long way to go with it. And now that we have a couple of green flag laps, you can see how quickly this race moves forward. Already about 40 laps to go, 41 laps to go rather, as Braden Boulos continues to start putting drivers a lap down.
Yeah, and the longest run yet. Kyle Riley again is around on the inside wall. No caution flag. We stay green again as the madness ensues and more drivers lose laps here. This is also where Braden Boulos is having the race almost look towards his direction, because the pace difference is still in his favor. He is still, outside of Michael Cozy Jr., the quickest car on the racetrack, even with the drivers on fresher rubber behind by a good 20, 30, 40 laps in some cases. It's been an impressive job for Boulos now to be able to set the tempo, and as impressive, if not more impressive, for Cozy Jr. to do this job with the damage.
Now, the one thing Michael Cozy Jr. has working in his favor is he has some lap traffic that obviously Braden Boulos is going to have to work in front of it. He caught him about a tenth that last time by, an 18.938 to a 19.030, so about a tenth into Michael Cozy's pocket right there, who again, not running for points in this FTF Grand National Series presented by Bar Visuals. He's just out here to try and win a race, and we know Cozy is going to do all he can to get it done. So we'll see how much he can catch Braden Boulos here, catching lap traffic. He's got Victor Valley, Sean Butler, and Clint Roberts just in front of him, a long line of cars. So it is about to get busy for the Horizon Racing Chevrolet out front.
It's also getting busy for Michael Frisch because he's passing by that last grouping of cars on the outside, and he's now turning up the speed now that he's got some clean space by about a couple tenths when he's got himself single file. And if he can do this efficiently, there might be enough time for Frisch to get up to Braden Boulos. It's only about a 3-second difference if they can get up towards the point.
He's able to work by Edwin Mendez as they touch doors there in 3 and 4 for just a moment. But you're exactly right. Michael Frisch is the fastest car on the racetrack, I believe, with the fresh tires. He's now got some clean racetrack in front of him. So this is really going to be a 3-horse race. Braden Boulos on old tires. He's just starting to navigate some of that lap traffic as he works by Clint Roberts and a couple of other cars. You got Michael Cozy, slightly better tires and trying his best to run down Braden Boulos. And then Michael Frisch, who, as you mentioned, fastest car on the racetrack. If this continues green, if this cycles out, this could be a 3-horse race down to the end to see exactly which strategy pans out. But right now, Boulos still trying to work through lap traffic. Cozy has run him down by about 3 or 4 tenths of a second these last couple of laps. But of course, Cozy now, he's just starting to get into lap traffic as well.
Yeah, he's cut it down to only about a second, and he's going to have to deal with side-by-side traffic. In fact, you see Rich Jameson and a couple others just in front of him. But for Frisch, this is going to be the big thing, I think, for the 58. For him to be able to get by them as quick as possible, even quicker than Cozy Jr. or Boulos is, because, again, the freshest rubber is one of the big kickers. But for 2, if he can do it efficiently, it might come down to the final 10 laps at this rate, as the caution's on and changes everything.
As Michael Cozy was back to about 8 tenths of a gap between he and Braden Boulos, the caution flag flies once again on what was the longest green flag run that we had seen up to this point. But unfortunately, looks like we're going to work caution number 13. And now with what you were mentioning earlier, Justin, I think this really comes into play when you were talking about the length of runs and how worn your tires are. What are we going to see here from Braden Boulos? He's going to come down pit road and he's going to get juked out by Michael Cozy Jr. Cozy fakes him out. Boulos is on pit road. Does he have time to get back to the front? That's going to be the question.
It all depends on how many drivers pit here, but this is the reasoning for the caution flag that changes everything. This is Williams, who we talked about a bit before, getting to the back end of the car in front, and bam! That hit his enough to trigger a caution flag. Very respectfully.
And 88, who has, again, had... I think we've gone back to our bar visuals replay about 3 or 4 times, and somehow there is a blue car with a red 88 on the side of it who is sitting broadside in the middle of the racetrack. I feel like I've seen that a couple of times already, but as you see, our race leader back in traffic, Braden Bulos, comes off of pit road. We'll have to wait for timing and scoring to sort itself out here as we work by some of the lap traffic, but Bulos going to be back in what is being scored in the 15th position. So can he work his way forward in what's going to be about a 25 lap dash to the end of this race? I just don't know if there's enough time or if the tires are fresh enough to overcome the likes of Cozy and especially Michael Frisch. I think Frisch was even running down Michael Cozy. This caution may not have benefited anybody more than that 58 machine.
I was about to say, this puts Frisch in the driver's seat to try and win this race. He's played the strategy well, and I think because he's got the much cleaner car and the fresher tires than Cozy Jr. by about 40 laps, he might be able to make this move work on the high side. For Cozy Jr., though, don't be surprised if he tries to defend for all his might, because this is his shot here of trying to win this race. He goes into pit now, he likely finishes outside the top 10. Now, how the rest of the pack plays is going to be critical for if Bulos can get up there. If we get several restarts, let's say, Blake, I think Brandon Bulos, as long as he's on a clean car, might be able to capitalize on that. If we get a long green flag run, that's easier said than done.
Oh, it certainly is, Justin, and we'll have to see how it works out. A pair of drivers up front who are not battling for FTF Grand National Series points this season. Michael Cozy Jr. and Michael Frisch all going all out to try and win this race. We'll see how it pans out. We're going to get 25 to go here as Michael Cozy Jr. steps on the loud pedal, green flag in the air, and already Michael Frisch doing his best to try and chase him down through the corner, side by side behind them, but first 3 cars now able to work forward and single file off of 4. 1 car hard to the outside wall. Caution flag is out. I believe it's Arnold Columbia once again.
Columbia just can't catch a break. I believe there's more cars still spinning too. Jacob Fisher also got hit after the caution into the inside wall to add even more damage. Just both of them cannot buy a clean car, let alone a break in this race.
Yeah, I don't think so. And unfortunately, our good friend who may be in the broadcast booth, or you may hear him for the FTF Cup Series in a couple of weeks here on Sunday nights. He, I think, is the one that got into the back of Arnold Columbia right there. And Columbia has been turned a couple of times in this race, and hard contact behind them. You mentioned the number 7 of Matt Horton had nowhere to go. He barrels off into that. Tyler Duggan just had to sneak on by on the top side as we get a look here at our bar visuals replay, and just typical, gets into the back of him in a wrong spot, turns him right around.
And then the second incident, I think Fisher just lost it. Yeah, try to keep it off the car above and just it went right around trying to lock it up, but got a bit of air off the grass that launched him up hard into that wall.
He certainly did. I want to see this again from Jacob Fisher right here, obviously. So we get the spin right here. Then the 94 working down the front straightaway. I mean, he's paying some tribute to Space Station Gaming as he takes off the nose of that race car, crosses over there, I believe, where Victory Lane is, kind of the crossover between the concrete and the grass right there. You're going to see nose right there. Yeah, right before it hits the inside wall, just launches into the sky.
Rough night for the competition director for Space Station's racing program and planning a Road to Pro campaign, mind you, too, for 2021. Just hasn't been able to find any breaks tonight. Him or Will Rogers.
It's been a tough going for some of the space station gaming machines, at least here in this race. And we'll see if they can try and rebound here as we work under the caution flag. Believe we'll have 20, call it 19 laps to go when we get the green flag. Pace truck working off of 4. Lights are still on. Believe we'll get the 1 to go signal this time by. And indeed we do, as the lights turn off on the iRacing pace truck. So with some of these short runs, I know we were talking about Michael Frisch perhaps being in a good position. If we don't get a green flag run that's long enough, I think Cozy is going to do exactly what Braden Boulos was able to do, just take advantage of these restarts and just ride it easy on home.
I think if you get a run of about 5 laps, though, Michael Frisch might be able to try and pounce. Right now, Cozy Jr. has the main thing banking on him of having 2-lap runs. Any further than 3 to 5, this could mean the 58 could have a shot.
Well, Steve, he gets a pretty good launch off of the jump of the restart. He's already all over the back bumper of Michael Cozy as they work off of turn 2. Cozy will go to the inside. Frisch rolling through the corner. He's definitely got a little more speed in it, but has to check up a little bit. But I think Michael Frisch is right there. He just needs this thing to stay green.
Yeah, going to have to play major defense, and it's not going to stay green. Jacob Fisher again involved in trouble. Dylan Smith and several others.
Once again, Edwin Mendez spun around, Jacob Fisher, Sean Butler, Dylan Smith. I mean, who hasn't been involved in something tonight? The list is awfully short, if not non-existent. As Edwin Mendez looks like he got a little help. I believe he tried to cross down. Actually, no, he gets hit from Braden Boulos. First time we've mentioned Boulos' name in an incident tonight, as I think Boulos just didn't know the power of his own race car. Got in there with those fresh tires, spins him right around, and unfortunately tags the 77. He gets spun, and as we've seen plenty of times tonight, the field just packs on in.
Sean Butler hit from everywhere, and an absolute parking lot yet again with several different drivers trying to find those open spaces. Man,
I tell you what, Butler, he's just been a trooper tonight. There's been a lot of them out here that have been in about, I'm sure the incident count is going to be over 30 for some of these drivers, but yet here they are still running. Jacob Fisher's one of them. You see him spun again. Heavy damage already on that race car, but he's going to keep going along. You see Will Rogers trying to make it through. Takes a couple straights, but for the most part is able to get on by. There's the 88. We've mentioned his name a fair amount of times tonight. Kyle Short. Front clip gone on that race car. He makes it through. So, oh, man. What a long night for some of these drivers.
It's going to be some frustration, I think, for some of these competitors, but it's short track racing at a very tight racetrack. And it can happen where you make door-to-door contact and bumping and banging. And we've seen a lot of bumping and banging to the point where we're maybe up to Michael Frisch has the cleanest car on the racetrack. I don't know if there's anybody else left who doesn't have damage. No, check that. Frisch has right front damage. I think everybody's got damage at this point.
And I'll tell you, the cars that do not have the potential for more damage, those are the cars that are already sitting on the trailer. 37th on back. I believe Victor Valley, he's 17 laps down. He's still on the racetrack, but 38 cars. And that's one thing that's interesting here is the amount of cars that are still on the track. I mean, these things they were built to withstand a lot tonight with how many cars we still have running. I think we still have 38 cars counted that are right now running on the racetrack. It's amazing that we still have that many who are continuing to make laps. You see a handful of drivers who scored a lap down 29th on back, but this is absolute madness, and we'll have to see if it continues to be that way. Michael Cozy, he may be able to hang on here if he keeps getting a couple of these restarts to work in his favor.
Yeah, he might be able to do that. And obviously, from what we can tell, Cozy Jr. is forcing Frisch to basically have to move him out of the way if he wants this bottom.
Cozy playing it smart, but will Frisch put the back bumper to him. I know Frisch personally myself, he's a pretty clean driver, but when you're just going for a win, there's nothing to lose. You never know what he might do. We'll see. As once again, Frisch just slightly better through the corner. Contact behind them. One car thrown to the outside wall. They keep it going for the moment, but Cozy, Frisch, Osen Walsh, your top three.
How about Walsh, able to move his way up 27 positions? Where did he come from? We haven't mentioned his name all night. Started all the way in the back of the field, now trying to fight for a top four is another caution in turns 3 and 4.
And they are piling in once again. The loud crunch of metal is very much heard here through 3 and 4. As once again, oh man, we had one driver who he didn't complete our flip count, but I guess we can add half to the flip count tonight. I mean, Sean Butler stuffed into the wall. He climbed the wall, maybe not half, maybe a quarter of a flip, a third of a flip or so, but you're going to see it right here. 51 and Sean Butler right here. The 51 of Kyle Short. Sean Butler, he climbs the wall, and they're going to try to collect it after that. And in the ensuing chaos, a couple of names you're familiar with. Matt Horton gets turned. Justin Malillo is involved. 34, couple laps down to Tyler Williams. And, yeah, just same old same here at New Smyrna.
Yeah, and that's an understatement and a half for the day, as you'll see the major implications here with the Chekhov effect. 5, 6, 7 different drivers just slammed on the brakes like they were putty. Just no time to react in that scenario. Maybe a tenth of a second at the most to be able to slam on the brakes.
They try to slam on the brakes, but, you know, for how these cars are withstanding, I don't know if brakes really mean a whole lot. You see the 45 there gets swept up in that.
Well, we've seen Dylan Smith's approach. Just floor it and hope for the best there.
I guess we can. That's the best that we can hope for.
He only got right side damage from it. So sometimes you just go for the open hole. He went for the open hole. He's the last car in the lead lap, I believe.
Well, and you got to do it, too. You know, I know we think, when we've kind of been saying that a lot of these wrecks have started in the back of the pack, but, you know, these guys are fighting a lot. Many of the drivers in this field, they are competing for points. I think a lot of non-regular drivers didn't exactly have this track circled on their list of tracks they wanted to compete at, and I think you can see why if you're watching along with us here for coverage of the FTF Grand National Series presented by Bard Visuals. It's been a long night here at this half-mile short track, and I think that's exactly why. 16 cautions to speak of. You think about that. 79 laps now, 80 under caution, and we're working lap 144. So I can do some quick math right there. 64 laps, 65 when we get going back green. That'll be run under yellow, so, or run under the green rather. So more caution laps. We'll try to get in a few green flag ones before we get to the end. We'll see if we can do it. Michael Cozy gets on away. 6 laps to go here from New Smyrna.
And Cozy Jr. going to have to be very defensive as they're bumping and banging behind him. 3 wide down the back.
3 wide as the 37 of Osen Walsh got shuffled up by Cosmin Eshu. Here comes Ryan Doucette and another big wreck behind them. And it's a lot of smoke, but nobody turned completely. But nevertheless, caution flag comes out.
You still had 4 or 5 drivers stuffing into the fence altogether, stuck together in that situation, as looks like Cosmin a little bit frustrated here, but at the same time they had to pass by all of these cars for position here to get back to where they are for the scoring loop.
Yeah, it looked like Cosmi and Eshu just along for the ride. You can see this is kind of the initial contact. I'm not sure if he got into the 37 or if he just got a little bit loose, but you see 3 wide. Doucette goes by on the bottom. Nathan Rabideau, he tries to get by as well, and then 84 gets contact definitely from Ryan Naraki from behind, but I think Naraki got some help as well from Ethan Corder, who was stacked up there on the inside. So once again, we've seen a lot of this, that kind of that third car from behind. You can definitely see contact between the 818 and the 02. That kind of turns Cosmin, and they're able for the most part to collect it. Naraki's able to keep it going, but man, it is Just been a long night, but it looks like we're going to get into green-white checkered territory.
And that's going to be fun to see how many laps we can turn there. 3 green-white checkered attempts available, keep in mind, for tonight. But in this case, this sets up Michael Cozy Jr. and Michael Frisch for what could be one of the most exciting finishes to start off the year. It's either Cozy Jr. will be able to hold on with a very demolished race car, or Frisch will either have to use the chrome horn or try and power his way on the outside for a drag race for the win. There's no other way to put it to try and take home this victory. I don't think Frisch can just dive it to the inside here. There's not going to be enough time, even with 2 laps up to speed. So in other words, this is going to be an exciting finish, to say the very least, to see who can take this checkered.
It is, and a development out there on track. I actually saw Sean Butler. He went, rode the wall, and then left. But he was about halfway flip. So you know what? We're going to count that to the flip count, even if we didn't count that first one. So we have half a flip there on the flip count. But Sean Butler, who is competing for the FTF Grand National Series championship this season, he's going to put it behind the wall and just let this thing sort itself out. But as you mentioned, battle is going to be up front. For the most part, we've seen Michael Cozy, Michael Frisch will be row number 1. Jeffrey Stanton has been a surprise driver that's been up here at the front of the field. He's trying to vie for a win here tonight, as well as Ryan Doucette, who has worked his way up into the 4th position. He's got fresh tires on that 077 machine. We'll have to see if it's enough for him to try and go after victory here. So green-white checkered attempt number 1 of a potential 3. We'll see if we'll get back to the white flag or if we'll have to do it all again. Cozy will stack them up. They make contact as Frisch gets turned. Now Frisch to the outside wall, and they're 3 wide behind him, but Cozy able to scurry away in the chaos.
And now they're wrecking in the pack, and wow. Caution is out. Ineshu and several others involved, but I have not seen that before. Michael Frisch just got hit in the left rear by the 61 coming to the green flag. What in the world was Stanton thinking there?
I don't know. That's that was really interesting, and obviously it was a really smart decision by Michael Cozy, I think, because there was a lot going on that restart where Cozy and really most of the leaders throughout the night have been very aggressive and going early on these restarts, and I think Cozy just trying to change it up. Everybody's anticipating, everybody's trying to go. We'll see here once again. Pace truck dives off. This is the point we've seen a lot of drivers take off, and I think Jeffrey Stanton was anticipating it. He gets going. Frisch is trying to pinch down, and they just end up making contact before they even get the drop of the green flag. And that's about the best thing in the world that could have happened to Michael Cozy Jr. because he's able to go away. But, of course, that stacks him up behind, and around goes Ineshu.
Yeah, he gets bumped around, and for some drivers, the give and take can reduce, keep in mind, in the closing stages of a race like this when points are on the line. And a bit of tempers flaring after that with Justin Malou and several others in the checkup. Several different drivers just nowhere to go with this circumstance. Others, again, pulling some Days of Thunder moves out there.
That is the case, and actually we have caught up with Sean Butler, who was running out there tonight. And Sean, I can't imagine that you had a whole lot of fun tonight, but go ahead and tell us how your experience was.
Well, we had a blast, Blake, as you probably saw. We did a great job of being involved in every other wreck at the end of this race, and you're the only one who saw it because I heard it on the broadcast of my adventure when my throttle and all other pedals just locked up on me. I think the car is finally seen enough tonight, but what a race this has been. I feel really bad for you guys tonight having to try to find stuff to talk about under these caution periods, but it's a short track racing, I guess. What else can you say?
Well, and that's the thing. You'd think that there maybe wouldn't be a lot to talk about. We're having to kill a lot of time under caution, but there's been a lot of action out there. A lot of drivers trying to work their way forward. And, you know, I'll just throw it to you right here. Well, we got green-white checkered attempt number 2 of 3 coming up right now. You've been out there on the racetrack. You've seen Cozy. You've seen Stanton. You've seen Doucette. Who do you think may have the stuff to try and bring it home and capture the checkered flag?
Well, I mentioned this during the race, and I gave him a shout-out, but I have no idea how Cozy is doing any of this. So it is, his car is just, he's been used up like I was, not nearly as much as I was, but very impressive run by him. And I don't think anyone's got anything for him with what he's got right now. So I think he's the guy to beat, especially at these short tracks.
See if he can take that launch off the restart, and what a jump he gets. A car length and a half he's got over Stanton and Doucette, who nearly get together. Boulos is shooting it up the middle, 3 wide behind him.
Oh, and nearly almost hooking around Michael Frisch as well as Walsh. They straighten it out. More contact up into the wall goes Schwartz. White flag is out. Race is official.
They get back to the stripes, so this is the last lap. Michael Cozy in control of this race. He's got about a car length on Doucette. Is he going to send it in here in 3 and 4? They're wrecking back in the pack off for turn 2, but Michael Cozy cleaning out front. He is going to win the kick in the tires 150.
Wow. What a drive. And what a way to power that demolished race car to a victory, Blake. Unbelievable tonight for Cozy Jr.
He wheeled that car, and you see a congratulatory rev of the engine from Braden Boulos, who for the most part dominated this race. And with how things played out, I think just waited a little bit too late to take that fresh set of tires, and unfortunately just could not rebound enough in time. He ended up making some moves, got back into 6th, but unfortunately after dominating most of this race, he ends up in 6th. And Michael Cozy Jr. started 39th tonight, ends up bringing it home and burning it down here on the front straightaway.
Just incredible. Just absolutely incredible. Again, we know he can race strong in these types of races, especially when he gets his emotions kept together, and he kept them together tonight with a car that was falling apart, especially with no deck lid on it. He ends up being able to defend the best out of anybody, and the luck goes exactly his direction. Again, a big victory tonight for Michael Cozy Jr.
It is, and again, I think, like you mentioned, the strategy just seemingly fell in his lap. Obviously, it came with a lot of speed. We know Michael Cozy, no slouch when it comes to racing at some of these short tracks, but I think he had that perfect combination. Came down pit road, and you see, obviously, just like everybody else, the damage on the rear end of that race car, able to make it through the wrecks, but like you said, got out front when he needed to be at the right time, and with being in control of the restarts, able to use that to bring it home in the top spot. We'll look at the results here as Cozy parks it in victory lane. Cozy, your winner tonight. Ryan Doucette got back up, but just was 1 spot too short. He brings it home in the 2nd position. Jeffrey Stanton brings it home in 3rd. Osen Walsh in 4th. Michael Frisch finishes up in 5th. Braden Boulos, who dominated most of this race, led a good portion of it, he finishes up in the 6th position. 7th goes to Nathan Rabideau. 8th goes to Jacob Fisher. 9th was Ethan Quarter. He ends up getting back there in 9th, and Ryan Naraki rounds out the top 10.
The Controller King AJ Henderson finishes in 11th from 38th starting spot, while Will Rogers finished in the 12th position. Rounding out the first dozen drivers for tonight. Just outside that mark was Nate Stewart in 13th. Andrew Schwartz, after being bumped up into the wall, recovered to 14th quickly in the span of the final lap. And when Mendez was up towards the front, finished in 15th. Hagenstein finished in 16th. Brandon Hawken in 17th. Adam Sweet, Jonathan Oates, and Kyle Short, your top 20, Blake.
Rounding out the top 20 was Short. And by the way, I forgot to mention, I think I skipped over Jacob Fisher there for 9th, so or for the 8th position, rather. So Jacob Fisher in 8th. But 21st to Kyle Riley, 22nd was Cosmin Ionescu, 23rd goes to Jake Poulin. He was our race winner back at Daytona. Locked into the playoffs, but not the effort that I'm sure he wanted as he tried to go back-to-back here at New Smyrna. 24th goes to Justin Malillo. 25th was Isaac Johnson. 26th was Lucas Plosel. 27th goes to Timmy Pacioli. 28th was Dylan Smith. 29th, Tyler Williams. Matt Horton completed the top 30.
31st went to Arnold Columbia, 3 laps down. Andy Margot, a rough race, 3 laps down, and 32nd, followed by Clint Robertson, Rich Jamison. Sean Butler, he tried as hard as he could, but eventually the car ended up flying halfway along the wall. Finishes 35th, 11 laps down. Followed by Victor Valley, who finishes 36th. Matt Spalding blew an engine in the late stages. He finishes 37th. Carmichael 38th. Tyler Duggan in 39th. Harry Taylor rounds out the top 40. Zwack, Winters, and Nemitz, your last drivers in the field tonight.
They round out this field. And again, most of the field, 29th on back, were scored a lap down, as it was an attrition-filled race in this one. We'll try to see if we can't catch up with our race winner tonight in Michael Cozy Jr. in just a couple of moments. But it appears, at least for the time being, we may be able to talk here to Ryan Doucette. He finished it up in second. Or actually, no, we'll get Michael Cozy in here. He just joined in here. So, Michael, crazy race out there, buddy. How'd you get it done?
God, I'm so excited. I don't even know. It doesn't feel real. I started 39th. I couldn't figure out how to qualify. I was so mad at myself. I went forwards there off the start, and then I got wrecked by a good friend of mine. I got to watch the replay and see what happened. But I got wrecked. I don't think I had the rear end of my car. I don't know, man. It got lucky when I took tires there with like 100 laps to go. And that's why I started moving forwards. I was like, yeah, maybe I could try to fix some damage, get a reset, or not a reset, but a fresh set of tires, and try to start making some ground, because I got stuck there for a little bit, and I just never stopped, and I just kept on going forwards. I can't believe it worked out, man. That's crazy.
I know you guys have a little bit of a schedule here. Those of you who are not competing full-time here in the FTF Grand National Series presented by Bar Visuals, what made you, out of your list of tracks, to kind of pick and choose? You're limited in terms of the schedule that you can run. What was it about this racetrack that made you think, hey, let's come on out and see if we can try to steal a win here?
Well, I'm gonna be honest. I love short track racing. I feel like it's probably one of my strengths. But to be honest, this was I thought New Smyrna was a different track. I thought this was another track. So I was confused when I got in here. I was like, is this one? I don't think I've ever raced, to be honest with you. But I had a great time. I was pleasantly surprised. So I'm very disappointed that I can only run 18 races. But hey, I'll take it, man. We're off to a good start here.
All right, well, I'll just go ahead and let you celebrate. But before you do, Mike's all yours one more time. Anybody you want to give a shout out to? This is your chance.
Oh, absolutely. First off, I got to thank my my brand new teammates tonight. I was working with Braden in the 01 and our combined spotter Matt up there, and Jordy was in there a little bit. All my Horizon teammates. So excited to say. I look forward to racing with them and working with them tonight. Braden had a great run. It sucked. Just the strategy didn't work out for him, but I think he still recovered for a great finish. So thanks to all those guys for having me, man. I was so cool to get out here and just get a win and get off rolling. So thanks to everybody who makes the league run, and it's great to be back again running this season.
Well, thank you, Michael. I'm sure WinVow Nation is very happy tonight as they go to victory lane tonight. And we'll go ahead and talk to Ryan Doucette. He brings it home tonight in second. He's caught up with Justin Prince.
Yes, indeed. And Ryan, it was an eventful race for you tonight. Talk us through trying to work your way back to the pack after the several strategy calls throughout the night.
Well, just start off the race qualifying fourth. I mean, starting up front was pretty big because I know it was probably chaos in the back of the pack, and that set me up with some good starting track position. And my decision to pit around like lap 80 I knew it was going to be a risky move, and it did end up hurting me a little bit when I got spun there off turn 4. Thankfully, I was able to recover though. And before I say anything else, I want to apologize to Cosman because I got into him on one of the later restarts going into 1 with the expectation of him being able to drive it in a little bit deeper, but it kind of blanked out in my mind that he was still on old tires and I moved him out of the groove. I didn't mean to. I don't usually like racing like that, but it did end up putting me in good track position there for the final restart, I think, or the second to last restart. And at that point, I was just kind of holding on, driving with everything I had to get the last few spots I could.
What makes this track, in your opinion, so difficult to try and manage? Because it seemed, for many, from the start of practice all the way through the entire race, there was a struggle to try and get to the preferred line as well as get the grip.
Well, the thing is with New Smyrna, I feel New Smyrna is a very two-grooved racetrack where if you're single file, you the middle lane is kind of fastest in 1 and 2, and the bottom lane's fastest in 3 and 4. But if you're 2x2, the outside line's going to be faster. So it's really tough to pass here, and that creates a lot of stack ups and 2x2 racing that turns into wrecks.
Hand the mic over to you. Anything you'd like to add or anyone you want to thank for your performance tonight?
I'd just like to thank all my Nexus Esports teammates and everybody in the race for running me clean, all the FTF admins for putting on this show. I know 43 cars on New Smyrna is a lot to manage. Everybody else for racing me clean. Again, I apologize to Cosman. I didn't want to get into him there at the end. And congrats to Michael on his win.
Thank you very much for the time, Brian. Ryan Doucette coming home in second tonight. Started up towards the front. Strategy gets him up to P2 overall. Blake, back over to you.
I've caught up here with Jeffrey Stanton. He started 17th, so another marcher up through the field. And Jeff, you found yourself up front of the end. What more did you need to maybe try to take a shot at either Ryan Doucette or Michael Cozy for the win tonight?
I was just bad on restarts, honestly. I was better on the outside than the inside. I don't even probably deserve to be third place, in all honesty. I feel bad for getting contact there with Michael Frisch there. I was trying to pinch it down off exit and try to get a better launch off exit on that restart, and I hate that we made contact there. Honestly, thought that the race control would put me in the rear. But I was just terrible on the restarts on the bottom. I need to be on that outside. I like the outside tonight.
It seemed to be the case, but for the most part, how was it in a race where, again, it was so attrition filled, so many things going out on there, the racetrack? You seem to, at least better than most, kind of avoid everything out there. What's it like when, everything is just happening all around you at such a fast rate? I mean, you got 12 incident points, but, that was one of the lowest in the field. How was it to try and kind of steer clear of all the chaos that was going on out there?
I was just trying to be patient as much as possible. Just try to find holes when I can find holes, but not force it too much. I'm used to a lot of traffic like this with the sprint cars on the pavement side, but on iRacing. But I was just trying to be patient, knowing it was a long race, and there'll be a lot of yellows. I was just trying to be patient.
All right, Jeffrey. Well, we'll hand the mic to you one more time. Anybody you want to give thanks to? This is your chance to do so.
I'd like to thank Big Eagle Designs, Napa Auto Parts, Rockwell, and everyone else. FTF for putting on this deal, Blair Visuals for sponsoring the series, everyone else that supports this, you guys for broadcasting.
All right, Jeffrey, thank you for your time, and congratulations bringing it home on the last step of the podium.
Thank you.
All right, Stanton brings it home in third, and it looks like that's about going to wrap things up for us here at New Smyrna. I'll throw it to you, Justin. I think we got a lot of what we expected tonight. Short track racing, a lot of wrecks, a lot of contact, a lot of cautions.
That's the best way to really put it, right? It was one where it was difficult to stay out of trouble, and the winner was one with a demolished race car and an incredible performance. Who didn't even realize, I think, at the time on which track at first it was for tonight. But, man, some of these drivers are going to have a lot to reassess after tonight to try and make sure they stay out of trouble for a short track race such as this again, because there's going to be plenty more races such as this you'd have to try and battle with. And I think this is also a learning curve for some drivers to be able to know what strategy is going to work out for a race such as this for the future. Because if you've got track position, keep it. That seems to be the mindset. And as we've seen, the drivers who came away up front were mainly the ones who kept the track position just about every single lap this race, Blake.
That seemed to be the case, but as we conclude our coverage tonight, it is going to be a busy couple of days here on STN Racing. Of course, you have the FTF Cup Series Bruh Clash presented by Bar Visuals. That'll take place tomorrow, 1:20 p.m. Eastern Time. So right before the running of the Great American Race, you can hop on here for something that you definitely won't want to miss. It'll be a lot of fun. Some really interesting and cool ideas going to be on there for for a quick 20-lap sprint around the World Center of Racing. So that'll be a fun one to catch up with. And then, of course, Monday night, 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time, the running of the Four Corners Racing League, also from Daytona. Again, that's assuming that the Daytona 500 does not run into Monday. So if that holds, we'll be running that on Monday live here on STN. And then, of course, next Saturday night, another running of the FTF Grand National Series presented by Bar Visuals will take on the 2.5 Mile Auto Club Speedway, a configuration that is not going to be seen, Justin, if at all, if I'm not mistaken. I think they're going to tear down that racetrack, make it a short track, but nevertheless, we can have the big oval live on here in iRacing, and those drivers will tackle that. Again, expect a lot of part-time drivers to be making starts there. Again, that'll be 10 p.m. Eastern Time live here on STN. So for Justin Prince, my broadcast partner, and for Zach Johnson down in the virtual production trailer, my name is Blake McCandless saying so long tonight from New Smyrna Speedway, where once again we bid farewell. And congratulations to Michael Cozy Jr., your winner of the Kick in the Tires 150. Until we meet again.